Hey, this is Mike Naprella here with Peak Performance Physical Therapy and Sports Training, and we are really fortunate today to be interviewing a good friend of ours, Iris Zimmermann, who is one of Rochester's own very elite athletes who has competed in the 2000 Olympics and is a world champion fencer. And we're just really blessed here to spend some time with Iris, just picking her brain and her heart about fencing, the work she's doing at the club here, and we just felt like since it's the Olympic season here and they're about to get started soon, that it would be really pertinent for our viewers, for Peak Performance website and newsletters, to peek into some of Iris's experiences. So, Iris, I really thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm very glad to.
And we've had some interesting talks already, and I'm really looking forward to hearing some of the interest that you've got for these. So you are one of Rochester's elite athletes. You've been to the Olympics. You've been a world champion fencer. When did you first really process the idea that you either wanted to or actually could actually be an Olympian for the United States?
I was fortunate enough, I think, when you're the youngest sibling or younger sibling, it's much easier for you because the path is already laid. And Felicia was, my sister, was and is 5 years older than me. So when I started at 6 years old, she's already at 11 doing very well in fencing. And I think she, at some point at 12 or 13, knew that she would make some sort of Olympic team on the way. In 1992, she was actually one of the alternates, so at a very young age. So, you know, I saw that, and I saw possibility for myself. Actually, I saw no other route. Between 6 and 10 years old, you do fencing for fun. But then at 10, I think there's that realization of, I'm kind of good at this, I'm going to move forward. And then when you reach your teen
And that's
years...
where you're poking each other with the foil
Exactly,
at home?
exactly.
You're in training sessions actually
Right.
formally doing it?
Well, I think that I'm going to competitions. I went to competitions when I was younger, even at 9 years old, 8 years old, and I would win those competitions. And I was at practice and doing well there. There wasn't a second thought about it, just because I've seen Felicia do it, so I thought, you know, she does it, so I want to do it. So the focus very much was on more at the young age, especially trying to best my sister at something than anything else. And then, you know, at 14, I became one of the youngest world champions for under 17 age category. It's a trip to like go to Paris and then return to 8th grade after winning the world championship. But I became the first world champion for the United States.
You were a little popular when you came back.
No, actually not, because I was never there. I was always fencing. So the kids, you know, the teachers only really knew that I needed the homework, and then I came back and the homework was done. How'd you do? I won. Okay, okay. But they had no idea the significance that I became the first world champion at 14 years old.
Wow.
But so it really was at a very young age, because not that I peaked at a very young age, but I saw success at competitions at a very young age. And a lot of that was due to the mentality, I think, instilled with having a sister who was already successful.
That's cool. So how many years was it that you were in training at a serious level before you got to making the Olympic team?
I made the Olympic team when I was 19 years old. It was 2000 Sydney Games. And like I said, I started at 6 years old. So I tell the kids when I speak to them that I, trained for 13 years. So when you watch the Olympic Games, the result of all that training is, 10 years, 13 years. I mean, it's a long process to make it to the Olympic Games. It isn't like Michael Phelps jumped in the pool and then the next day he's making the Olympic team. I mean, these are young athletes, but at the same time, they start at a very young age.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of
lot
work.
of dedication.
It's a lot of dedication, and it's a lot of dedication at a point that you don't want to do it. It's like, this one's a hard one, because parents always ask me, how much do I push the kid to come get in the car and come to the fencing practice if they don't want to? So there's value in making a commitment and sticking to the commitment, and then doing incremental progress every day. And if you put them in the car, and then today they might not like it, or they get there and they enjoy it, or for a week they might not like it, but the next week they may, it's kind of like a give and take. You want to push them a little bit, but in the end, if they want to do it, they're going to put in the time and effort, and it's consistent effort over time that really makes the difference.
Do you think that fencing, like you talked about being like 13 years, 10 years, 13 years, is fencing different from the other athletes you meet from other sports in terms of sounds like your story. I don't know if a lot of fencing stories are like that, where at a young age, there's a sense of, hey, I can do this, versus whatever, basketball or track and field or other gymnastics, athletes that you knew. In terms of, is that process in fencing a unique one, or is that a common story that at somewhat early ages, that elite level is sort of recognized, and you early on dream that I can really do this, versus plodding along for 8 or 10 years before even thinking I'm going to be elite?
Fencing's a strange sport in that you can be like me, a young phenom, and come out and do well, but you could also do fencing for a long term, not be so good, and then make teams. For example, the girl who I was always a competitor with, Erin Smart, she's always really good, but she's always kind of an alternate on the team when I was on the team with Felicia. But it turns out, she ended up making 2 Olympic teams and going until her late 20s, and made it, had a silver medal at the 2008 games. So it's really hard in fencing to tell how you're going to be at any given time. So when a kid walks in, that's the cool part about fencing, actually. When a kid walks in and they say, do they have talent? Yes, they're coordinated, they can do these things, but it's a skill that you can learn over a long period of time. I think maybe gymnastics, there's kind of a shelf life you have, but fencing, there really isn't. And recently I started training someone who is 63 years old. So fencing really is a different kind of animal, because you can use your physical and mental strengths and weaknesses to your advantage. And
at any point.
At any point. So for me to answer that question is very hard. You train for a long time, and I think it's really over a longer period of time you gain experience, because fencing really is about experience. It's about it's a chess game. So if this person plays this move, then what move do I play? And it's a huge mental game of being able to keep your composure, being able to think on your feet, being able to keep your mind focused on what you're doing. So a lot of that comes a little bit later. So people were surprised that, for me at least, that such a young person is doing so well. But now fencing has become much more athletic than it ever has, so the age is now also decreasing. But someone just retired from Valentina Bizzali, the most winning fencer of all time. She just retired, and she was 40, I think, or something, or late 40s, or late 30s. So I think
still
it's
elite.
really, she's still elite and still top of the world. So it's really hard to say how much you need as a fencer.
It certainly makes it a unique sport compared to lots of the others.
That are strange, who knows?
Yeah, both. But no one's going to call it strange when you have a weapon.
That's true.
Go. So you were obviously really successful locally and nationally and internationally as a fencer, winning the 99 World Championships and making Olympic teams. But there's lots of athletes who are doing the same thing you're doing. They're working hard, they're athletic, they're talented. What do you think made it work for you? What got you there when someone else is working really hard, putting hours in the gym too? What were the differences that made you succeed at such a high level?
Well, that's a hard one, but I think that the differences are slight at the top level athletes, and at least for fencing, it's really about a mental edge. Really. I mean, just being able to focus on the strip and to be in the moment, to figure out, to problem solve in the moment. But I think for me personally, the difference between me and most of the athletes were that I did train harder. And all the days that someone didn't want to come in, I'm coming in.
Perseverance.
Perseverance. And I think consistent effort over time. That you're putting in the time and effort every day, even if you don't want to. But there are a lot of athletes that are out there. It's really hard to say, because it's a whole combination of things. It could be, my coach at the time, he not learned a secret, but he taught me something that was important for me. For example, I use my strength of being able to hit over the top to the back, which is a flick. And he knew at an early age I was going to be very strong, so he decided I'm going to have her work that one. So it's really a combination of everything. My mom did research on what were good things for an athlete to eat, and she knew about herbal medicine, so I had a lot of injuries, so she would help work on that. My mom used to, before the 2000 games, every night help me by giving me a massage. like every night just kind of like helping me with that. Just learning how to do with sports massage. So like, it's a little thing.
You
It's
do
crazy
realize
to
now
mom-
all the kids are going to be asking for
Mom,
massage.
right, but it's not just that, it's that I had a team, so mental piece is really important, but I had a team of people around me and supporting me that I really trusted.
It wasn't just you grinding it
It
out.
wasn't just me, you can't just have one person grinding it out, you need a coach that believes in you. I needed a personal trainer at Midtown, Dave Stat, he was positive. Every time I go in the gym, he's like, "You're amazing today, you did great, you're great, you know, and so I would go in the gym like, I'm great, you know.
Believe in yourself.
You believe in yourself. I mean, you watch the Muhammad Ali movies that they make of him. He's never not surrounded by 10 people, you know, so every athlete can never do it alone. It's just not possible. It's not possible. You have to have a good group and team around you.
So, you know, obviously the Olympics are here. They're starting in just a few days. Being a former Olympian, knowing what it feels like to be on that stage, knowing what it feels like to walk in that opening ceremony, obviously for most of us, we don't know what it feels like to be an Olympic athlete. When the Olympics come around every few years and you're watching that opening ceremony, you're watching different sports compete, especially obviously fencing, what is it like being a former Olympian and now sitting in the passenger seat, sort of watching it from afar versus being on the floor doing it?
So the question is, do you want the truth or? So I think for some athletes, maybe it's hard to watch at first. I don't think I watched, I didn't make the 2018. I don't think I really watched 2008 and 2012. I think this is the first Olympics that I've been separated enough from it. You know, it's been 8 years since I retired that I feel ready to watch the Olympics,
yeah.
and I've been hugely into it.
And you mean just fencing, or you mean even just
the
Olympics in general?
whole thing, the opening ceremonies, everything. You could ask my husband, I was like, turn that off, I don't want to watch it. So I'll watch it now because I know how much joy it brings the kids that are here at the fencing club. I think owning this fencing club and then moving forward and being a teacher now and owning the club, really I realize the magic of the Olympic Games and what it can bring and what kind of inspiration it can bring to the kids at my fencing club and just generally when I do talks about the Olympic Games. But the truth is hard. I mean, you spend your whole life training and I don't feel like I met the marks that I wanted to at the Olympic Games, and I missed, you know, as an alternate by 2 points when they only took one person in 2004. I was ahead the whole time. You know, so there's this whole thing, you know, I didn't make the 2004 and 8 games, so I think for me, that was a tough piece. And so I think a lot of athletes do have that sort of, they call it Olympic depression a little bit, because you have this whole thing, you push towards that, so then how do you deal with the after effect? And for me, I came to terms by realizing how wonderful the sport can be for kids, and also how wonderful the Olympics can be. So I do, whenever I hear that anthem on NBC, like, you know, I can't sing it, but I tear up a little bit, just because I know the significance of that, and how significant it was just to make it, you know. So people, you know, they're multiple-time Olympians, but like just to make the Olympic team and how much it was, and sometimes it's a sliver of a second, you know, that you made the Olympic team. And you're walking into the ceremonies, that is unbelievable emotion right there.
Do you think that you, looking back on it, do you have a different appreciation for what it meant to be out there representing your country than you did when you were actually doing it, or was it so powerful when it happened? Was the reflection on that something that you took back and thought, did you realize what you had just done?
No, because when you're 19, you think, I'm going to make another Olympic team and I'm going to do this and I got to go to another competition. You know, you're already training for the next competition. So I don't think, for me, the way I grew up competing, I never looked back and I'm thinking, I got to go next tournament and what can I do more? What's the next step? So I didn't really soak it in as much as I probably should have. But I think now when I look at pictures of the opening ceremonies, I realize the significance. But at the time when I'm in it, and when you're in it and going for it, and you're defined by that purpose, you don't pay attention to that.
You're task-oriented.
I'm task-oriented. I'm there. I have a job. I'm at the Olympics. I'm going. So I think that one advice that I give, that I have given to people who are making teams, is saying, take a moment to reflect, because this could be your own Olympics, or just take a moment. You've earned this. You've earned the right to be here. You are here. It's a big stage. You will perform, but take a minute to look around and congratulate yourself.
It's interesting that you say that. I remember, and I don't know the exact reference point, but I remember being around a coach who had said, really, when you're about to step on this basketball court, really appreciate how many people around the world wish that they could be stepping on a court playing right now.
Right. And
you're getting to do that. What a privilege it is. And also remember, you never know when it's going to be the last time you get to step on that court.
Right.
And taking that moment to step back and really take in and appreciate the privilege that you've had and the honor it's been and just the fun and the competition. And there's always this assumption there's going to be another day. And obviously in physical therapy, we're dealing with people all the time who sometimes that next day can't come for them.
Right.
So it's great hearing how you had to sit back and reflect on some of those same things too.
I think being 19, it's very difficult to think about that. But I think as I matured as an athlete, and even now, I realize the importance. If you want to be successful, you very much have to be in the moment, and you very much have to reflect on what's happening at the moment. I think all too often, just even owning a business and having 2 children, I'm like, okay, what next do I have to pack? What do I have to do now? What's the next thing I have to do? Rather than, I think that we could be more focused actually and be more successful if we were to take a breath and to just think, okay, I'm going to narrow the scope of what I'm doing right now, because I don't think we do that. I think we're
pulled in a lot of directions.
Pulled in so many directions, and I think that was the one thing that I learned from the Olympic Games too, was I've got to learn how to stay in this moment.
Awesome. So as an Olympic athlete, do you look at us common folk who haven't been there, and just as you hear people talk casually or flippantly about different things, is there a sense like, wow, you really don't understand what it takes for those people to get there, even though they got beat and they were in last place? Is there a sense like we really don't understand what it took, even for the losers, the last place finishers, to get there?
I think that's the problem with just generally for us, because whenever I do a speech to kids about the Olympic Games, the first thing they ask me is, did you win? Did you win gold? And I tell them that Olympic athletes, when we get together for alumni, gatherings, I just went to an alumni gathering of Olympic athletes. We don't go up to each other and go, okay, so bronze, silver, or gold, otherwise I'm not talking to you.
You're not in the club.
Yeah, you're not in the club. Because the athletes that made it really understand how much it takes to get there and how much effort, and every day there's an effort to get there. And I think people, if they realize, I think that people need to start to equate what it's like to be at the Olympics with raising children. How much effort it takes every day and to be on point with your kids. Some days you've got to be on point no matter what. Your kids are getting up. You got to make sure they stay alive every day at minimum. So that's what I'm saying, is that I don't think people realize that training for the Olympics is like raising kids, like being there every day. And in the end, to say, your kid didn't go to Harvard, so obviously you're not a good parent, is the same thing that you would say to someone if you're saying, you obviously are not very good at what you do because you didn't win a gold medal. It's the same thing. So think about how much effort it takes for you to raise your children or your child, and then have someone at the end of it say, oh, they went to MCC, then RIT, or, they're doing a vocational skill, you must be a terrible, So, people fall in different categories, but it's not for a lack of trying and a lack of putting in all that effort.
And just having gotten there as a parent with kids, that survival is an incredible success.
Exactly. And I think people need to understand that. Young children don't understand that, because what we say to them all the time is, there's only the gold standard, if not gold platinum. You know what I mean? We just tell the kids that there's nothing but that. But I get the after effects of that. The kids walk in, and if they don't win right away, then that's it. So I tell people one of the values of the Olympic Games is excellence. And I talk to them about excellence, respect, and friendship. Those are the 3 values of the Olympic Games. Excellence isn't about the person standing at gold. Excellence is about asking yourself the question, can I get up today and do better than I did yesterday? Every day is a consistent effort. Am I going to be better today than I was yesterday? And it's the same thing with PT. can I get up today? Maybe it hurts a little bit, but can I do a little bit more, or do I need to pull back? You know, it's every day you analyze, am I moving slowly towards my goals and what I want to do?
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
We are so blessed at Peak Performance to have Iris be one of our friends, and she's a hard worker, and we could sit here and talk for hours. I just love all the wisdom that you shared with us, but I'd really encourage you to check out, tell me the website again?
Rockfencing.com.
Rockfencing.com, and give Iris a call if you're interested. My wife is very interested in seeing me get poked with a sword, so I think we're going to end with a little demo.